This is Beyond the Resume, the podcast that brings you the stories, advice, and insights behind some of the most successful people in real estate. Beyond the Resume is brought to you by Jackson Lucas Executive Search, the industry leader in human capital solutions. Here is Chris Papa and Lisa Flicker.
Ken Clark, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on here and good to see you again.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you as well.
You are the COO at Columbia Residential, one of the larger affordable developers based in Atlanta, Georgia. Can you tell Lisa and I about the Columbia Residential?
Absolutely. And so, again, thanks for having me. Columbia Residential, we're based in Atlanta. We're a mission-driven organization focusing on quality, affordable, fixed-income housing. We have approximately 9,000 units under management in the Southeast. We primarily focus on the Southeast. We've developed over 10,000 units, and we do a great job of financing, building, and mixing or managing communities with various incomes, programs, and compliance requirements. Our founder was Noel Khalil. He passed away in 2021. But he had a motto that Columbia Residential builds cathedrals for God's children. So we take quality very seriously. So his spirit still with us, and we just had an all-employee meeting, and there was a great tribute to him. And so it's great to see his spirit still alive. I had an opportunity to work with him when he started Columbia Residential. So I've been on both sides, the public side and also the private side. And so I had a chance to work with Mr. Khalil when I was on the public side. But Columbia Residential, again, we focus on the Southeast. We're owner, developer, and manager of affordable housing. And so we've worked with a number of public housing authorities to do redevelopment of distressed public housing communities. And
Okay.
so we've done a large development in New Orleans. We've done several here in Atlanta. We're working on one in Chattanooga right now. That is a Choice Neighborhoods project. HUD basically focuses on community transformation by looking beyond just housing. And so we've been partners with purpose-built communities. So community transformation is a big part of what we do. So very proud of our portfolio of properties and the relationships that we've been able to build in this space.
I love that. And one of the things that Chris and I love to talk about is kind of how you got here. So, what was it like for young Ken? I don't know if you grew up in Atlanta, but did you know you wanted to go into real estate? Did you know you wanted to do something mission driven? How did you get to this place?
The young Ken. Now it take
Not
a
that
while.
long ago. Not that long ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is a very interesting story, and no, I had no idea that I would be in affordable housing. Had no idea that I would be in real estate. Growing up, everybody said, you need to be a doctor. You need to be a doctor. You need to be a doctor. So I went to Morehouse College to be a doctor. It took me about 6 months to realize that I didn't want to be a doctor. So I actually left school after a couple of semesters to kind of try and figure it out. And had an opportunity to do a number of entrepreneurial things. And over time, I realized that I did enjoy business, right? And so while I was out there, someone said, "Well, go to law school. That's a great foundation." So I came back and majored in English and finished and started working as a runner in a law firm. And I got a chance to see the life of the junior associate.
You're like, that's definitely what I do not want.
And so, but I got to meet a lot of great people, and so it led to some connections. So one of those connections was through a very prominent entertainment attorney. He passed away a few years ago, Joel Katz. So I had a chance to work with him, entertainment lawyer, met some really interesting people. Joel actually decided to take a production company that he had and form a record label, and he gave the contract to me and one of his other accounting team members and said, "Hey, I've signed this contract. you all go into the new space and get everything set up. And so little did I know that that was probably the first time that I was sort of a COO.
Right.
Little did I know that. So again, a very interesting story. Meeting other people, met the owner of a funeral home, and his kids weren't necessarily in line to do what he was looking for them to do in terms of running the business. And through his accountant, he was looking for somebody to step in, and so I ended up there. And little did I know at the time that I was functioning as a COO. And so worked for Amico Corporation before going to the Atlanta Housing Authority in 1997, just to help on an administrative project. And they decided to offer me a job in accounting, believe it or not. And so I realized that I also had a pretty strong ability, with the numbers. And so ended up coming in as an accountant, and ended up as the controller in 2000. Um, so hey, it was an interesting path. That was like the first of three periods in my life. I
You
would
don't seem
basically,
like an accountant.
No, you do not.
Did you
I
like
am not.
accounting?
It just came naturally to me. It was the most bizarre thing. I've always been very analytical, right? And so I think some of the early operations exposure that I had taught me to problem solve at a very high level. And so I think that was more it, looking at problems and solving them and working with the accountants to actually to get work done. So it was very easy to go to a leadership role there. But I did see that as just a job when I first went there. I left the Atlanta Housing Authority in 2000, and I went to work for a publicly traded shopping center REIT, JDN Realty. The company owned about 104 shopping centers across the country. Uh, it was something new. I really enjoyed working for them. But in 2003, they were acquired by a larger firm, developers diversified out of Ohio. So I
DDR.
found DDR. That's exactly right, DDR. So I found myself, trying to figure out what was next. And so fortunately, there was an opportunity to go back to the Atlanta Housing Authority. And what was different this time was, I think, working for JDN, driving from the south side of Atlanta through downtown to Buckhead, which is north side. I got a chance to see the impact
Mm.
that the Atlanta Housing Authority had on the city. So I grew up in Atlanta, and it had changed so much. So when I went back, it started to have this mission field for me. And so took a unique role, which was sort of a hybrid between finance and real estate development, kind of helping to form an asset management function within the housing authority. As a matter of fact, the title was Director of Administrative Asset Management, sort of noting the hybrid nature of that. Did that for a couple of years before going over to real estate development and having a finance function within real estate development. Well, along came 2000, the crisis. And so opportunities sort of dried up outside. Worked for a visionary in the space, Renee Glover. She was very foundational, with the mixed income model with public housing. And so very privileged to work with her. But she also saw an opportunity for us to look internally and see how we could transform the business. And
Mm.
so I was selected to be the business lead. We worked with Boston Consulting Group, and so we had this concept called two in the box. And so I was the business lead. There was an IT lead, and so there was this IT enabled business transformation process that we went through for a couple of years. Well, along came a colleague of mine who had gotten a contract in Puerto Rico to work with the Puerto Rico Housing Administration there to procure and implement a housing management system there. Gave me a call and it sounded interesting, so I put my entrepreneurial hat back on and then formed Sycamore Realty Solutions, and went down there as a sub consultant. So that started like period 3 for me, where the roles became more strategic in nature in terms of execution. And so I did that for a few years, was really enjoying it, had that as a client, that situation, and also had other clients and worked as self consultants on other transactions. The business was growing, the business was booming, and then bam, life happens. And so I have to share this, as difficult as it is, because it's part of my story. And so in 2014, we lost our son in an automobile accident. And so he was a junior at Morehouse College. And so it kind of put me in a very contemplative state. And so needing to spend more time with my family and work through that period. Connected with the CEO of the housing authority in Little Rock, and he was looking for someone to help them with repositioning the portfolio there. And so that gave me an opportunity to not have to work with a number of clients, but to basically focus on just a community and help there. So that was what I needed at the time, and that kind of got me back to the public housing environment and working with individual communities. Opportunities came at several others before the opportunity came to join Columbia Residential back in 2024, where I started here and got back to the private side of things. And so I'm able to leverage the experience, from being with the public housing authorities to help leverage some of the opportunities that we have.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's just awful. And yeah, I appreciate that because, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure
but it's
people
been
who
it's
don't,
been
some
it's been
people
uh
looking,
it's been enlightening though, because I think what it gave me was a greater sense of purpose. So as I mentioned to you in period two, where I went in, and it was mission driven because I saw the work that the housing authority was able to accomplish. The incident in 2014 made me even more focused on helping people get what they need and thrive, whether it's inside of the organization that I'm working with, or the people we serve. I say we're going to take care of the people we serve and those who serve. And so just a greater commitment to service is what came from that. So
right?
so that is the good.
You kind of
Yeah, thank
turn the tragedy, processed it, and hopefully, yeah, turn it around in a way.
Yeah, I can only imagine how it shaped everything that's kind of come after for you and your family. Um, and hopefully it's why you are such a great mentor and leader, and he lives on in you through that. I'm so sorry.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
So operations is people, processes, and systems. And so I don't know whether it was ordered that way based on alphabet or whether somebody had some strategic thought around that or just coincidence. But the fact that people comes first in that is really the way I operate. The people, are important in every process. The other day I was, we're in this AI period, and I did some analysis, AI assisted analysis, and I looked at the output, and there was a need to go in and edit several of the items that had been produced there. And so it just reminded me that even though we're in this technological age, and AI is helping us so much, people are still really really important. And so I try to keep that front and center. Human centered design is a concept that's been around a while, and I kind of believe strongly in that.
Right. So you're the COO, and you said a couple times that you were acting in CEO capacities in other places. What the heck does a COO do, Ken?
Well, COO is a problem solver at best, right? So I think the goal ultimately is, especially in an organization like ours where you have various verticals, trying to streamline processes across the verticals to achieve efficiency, making sure that again the people component is complementary to the business. Um, that we understand the metrics that the key ones that drive the business. And so it's about performance, but performance from the standpoint of continuous improvement. And so stress that a lot, and basically three foundational principles: the element of psychological safety, and the need to keep an environment where where ideas flow freely. So a big proponent of that in the learning and creating and nurturing a learning environment. And then secondly, execution, just kind of talked about that. At the end of the day, we have to get the work done. So making sure we're holding each other accountable. We have good processes in place. And I think the last one is, I believe in having fun. I believe in having fun, right? And so making sure that we pause to acknowledge success, to celebrate success, because I think it builds resilience. There are going to be difficult times, and being able to look back on when you've been successful kind of gets you through, those times.
That's right. I say if you're gonna be upset for the losses, you have to celebrate the wins. And I
Got to
think
celebrate.
most people don't allow themselves to kind of fully enjoy the hard work that they've done. So just you mentioned AI, and I'm curious just to hear your opinion where you think it might move the needle in affordable housing, where you think it's a lot of fluff, what you're thinking today.
Well, I think it's a very important bridge to where we need to be. There are a lot of processes that are pretty routine that can be made more efficient with some of the capabilities of AI. Um, we are a people business, and it's a 24-hour business. And so one of the things that I've observed having lived in an apartment, so I've traveled a lot, and so where there have been those long stays, I've actually had apartments, so I kind of know what it's like to be a resident in one of those in a community. So I rarely saw the team in the office. A lot of things were automated, and so to the extent we can improve customer service with some automation. That's a big area, and so there are probably some other compliance related areas where there can be greater efficiency, and then of course finance where I'm kind of digging in right now. It's incredible how fast you can get pretty reliable outputs. As I mentioned, recently, just having to edit it, you still need people to look at it. And I guess that was my point
Right.
earlier. You still need people to challenge the outputs so that
For
you
now,
can,
for now, Ken, for now.
for now. And I'm hoping that it stays that way.
Well, once we challenge too hard, they're going to start coming after us and crush us for challenging. I think
Yeah, yeah. But
that's
haven't
when
you seen?
Terminator starts.
Right,
Terminator.
right. I've looked at that movie a lot of times, and I do see similarities. The whole idea of competing with the machines for power, right now with the data centers and all. But I
Right,
do believe, one of my favorite movies is Jurassic Park, and I think that Jeff Goldblum's character says, life finds a way,
right,
and
right,
so,
right.
and so I do think that we'll be able to stay ahead of it all. But
But can you just
look at,
do us one favor and just say, "I'll be back"?
I'll be back. I'll be
What?
back.
I could see that Terminator 3. Or now they have like 10 of them. You mentioned mixed income housing, which I think is pretty fascinating. I feel like a lot of people are kind of maybe moving a little bit away from a tax credit type of investment strategy and doing more of the mixed income per se. Like, yeah, can you tell us about your work in that world?
Well, I do know that there are some approaches that they're being experimented with now. I do think that the tax credit program is still probably the most, reliable
Hmm.
source with regard to being able to finance it. You're starting to see rates creep up and other things that make costs have always been an issue. They're continuing to rise, which makes the gaps in these deals a lot greater. So again, there are probably some ideas that are being floated, but probably the tax credit path is probably still
Yeah,
the
for
most the
sure.
most reliable and predictable way to build at scale.
Right. But you're doing mixed income stuff in Atlanta, I assume. Well, how do you? I feel like that's a great way to. Right. The model like for affordable housing back in the 70s was right. Like you build the projects right on the outskirts of town. You don't intermix them with the other population of people. And I think the mixed income, right? That's kind of goes against that, right? It's like kind of trying to put everyone together in one type of building, right? You have 20% certain AMI, 50% another, whatever. Like, have you found that effective?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so as you mentioned, there are probably multiple layers of financing that would be a part of it. So tax credit equity is a large part, conventional debt, and there's probably a need for soft financing, subordinate debt from a housing authority or other public source to be able to get that done. And so the income mix will probably vary, based on the ability to underwrite the deal. There are some theories out there that 30 30 30 is the magic, you know, set of numbers. I don't think that's always reality because you've got to be able to, um, to underwrite it. And so, the deeper you target, the less cash flow that's produced from those units. So it probably will require some other interest, free
Right.
source, or at least a subordinated source. So that model still works. The environment's very competitive, and so right now, one of the things that I mentioned to you before, partnering with public housing authorities is something that we do, and having been on that other side, I think one of the things that they're experimenting with right now is essential function bonds, which is a way to for the housing authority to actually be underwritten for the debt necessary for the construction, where the housing authority ultimately is the owner of the property. The developer's role is more of a fee developer type role. So some of that's going on across the country right now, and so we'll see how much of that development um,
Mm,
gets done. But again, it's underwritten on the housing authority, so strong financials for that organization is a key component to that. But there's an unstable environment right now with regard to funding housing authorities. So
right.
so I can see that being the challenge in terms of using that as a primary strategy. I think you'll still have a mix of all approaches, but certainly the tax credit program will continue to be incremental.
And then you mentioned you have some deep affordability there in some of your properties. I know you have a services, right? Component, like resident services. Like, what can you? Are you involved with that at all? I know you're not probably doing the resident services, but I'm sure it rolls up it to you, right? So, like, what sort of services do you provide, and like, what does that look like at Columbia?
Yeah, so we provide resident supportive services. Not directly involved in it, but we do recognize being able to support the residents both in the properties and also transitioning from one property to another is really important. We have an outstanding team. One of our affiliate or component units, Dash and Dwell, handles a lot of the relocation. So preservation is a big thing now, and relocating, whether it's on site or off site, they do a great job of making sure that the needs of the residents are met, and tracking everybody and getting everybody back in, consistent with the plans that have been developed. So meeting the owner need, but also meeting the residents' need is something that they do a good job of balancing.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. And you've been in Atlanta for a long time. Like, how have you seen Atlanta? Atlanta's booming, right? It's like a huge city.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been a huge city. Like, how has it changed, and how have you guys adapted over the years?
Yeah. So I have been here most of my life, and it has changed a lot. And so just thinking back, there was a stadium, just south of downtown, Turner Field. And right now, the Georgia State football team plays in a new stadium there, but there's housing all around. And
Mm,
so to see that area having transformed is absolutely amazing. The west side of Atlanta, one of our communities, West Highlands,
hmm.
it's the former public housing community known as Perry Homes. And so when I was with the Atlanta Housing Authority in those early days, the revitalization of Perry Homes started again under Renee Glover's leadership, and also young Columbia Residential. But that transformation, community transformation, led to the bridging of South Cobb with downtown Atlanta. And so there's an area called the Upper West Side that I don't believe would be here today, were it not, for the transformation of the former Perry Home site. And so that's something that I'm proud of, both from Atlanta Housing Authority standpoint and also being a part of the Columbia residential team. One other point, I did travel a lot, as I mentioned, from 2010 to 2020. And so I rarely made it to downtown Atlanta because I live on the south side and the airport's there. So I would go from the airport to home. But every now and then I would come downtown and to just see cranes everywhere and buildings
Hmm.
going up everywhere. It absolutely floored me with the pace. I'm like, you actually can get a building there? Is a question I would ask from time to time. And so yeah, there are former communities that I can remember walking through that are now built up and in a way that is very resident friendly. We have the Beltline that's connected the whole city, and to be able to get out and walk and dine, and play and shop, all while walking that Beltline. It is absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. So there was a time when I would tell people before all of this development that Atlanta is the greatest city in the world. Well, they would say it all depends on where you're from.
Right. Yeah.
But now I really do think that it's a world-class city, and just very proud of the leadership, local governmental leadership. Again, the work that Renee Glover did with regard to housing, and I just love it. Glad to be back here pretty much full time.
And transforming the city that you grew up in. That's like a dream come true.
Yeah, it is. And
Really
and
is.
one of the other ironies here is that I actually spent some time in one of the public housing communities as a child,
Wow.
Carver Homes. And so to be a part of the revitalization of it while I was with the Atlanta Housing
That's pretty cool,
Authority
man.
was absolutely cool. So yeah, I'm in the right place. As I mentioned to you all when we first started talking, I was all over the place at one point in time, but that was all necessary to prepare me for what I'm doing right now. And again, I think all of that just gave me a very good high level perspective of business. And so I'm able to make decisions because I've touched, business in different spaces, and it's allowed me to be able to connect dots and give good guidance as a thought partner.
Well, Ken, you're in hot Atlanta, but you've
Hot
never
Atlanta.
sat on the hot seat. So here we go.
Ken's got this. I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about it.
Uh-huh.
We'll start you out with an easy one. So a lot of the listeners would listen to you and think, wow, you've sat in so many different seats. You've run your own shop. You've done a lot of amazing things. Are there any books or podcasts that you might recommend to a young person that might motivate them, might teach them, anything that's stuck out as great for you?
Yeah, so my favorite I would say is Hidden Brain. And so I love that podcast because it
Mm,
kind of you know looks at various issues and situations and kind of gets to the underlying human motivation behind what we do. Of course, all theory, but very interesting concepts. I just really enjoy Hidden Brain. And then I would say my favorite audio book, because
mm-hmm,
I've been a heavy traveler.
Same.
You know, the go-to How to Win Friends and Influence People,
mm-hmm,
Dale
mm-hmm.
Carnegie. Absolutely timeless.
So,
And so I think I listen to it at least twice a year.
Mm.
And so we talked about the people piece being so important, and it really just helps to recalibrate. I just believe that, relationships are just so critical to what we do. And just the other day, I was in a situation where someone clearly made a mistake. Um, and I remember Dale Carnegie's principle about letting the other person save face. Give them an opportunity to save face, because at the end of the day, people walking away from an engagement or an interaction and feeling good about, the situation, is really, really important. So we had opposing views, and so, you know, um, there was this obvious, I shouldn't have done that, but finding a way to help that person feel good about, situation and move forward was really, really important. But yeah, how to win friends and influence people. So he points out in there that as a leader, only 15% of your success comes from your technical ability,
Mm.
but 85% your ability to influence and motivate people. And so I've seen that it's timeless. Those principles, I like revisiting them.
It's amazing. I think he
Yeah,
wrote
I,
like 100 years ago or something.
Yep,
So the fact that it's, we're still here talking about it, it is timeless. It's amazing.
I let Lisa save face every day, at least 5
And
times
I
a day.
appreciate it.
You have to That's the one that's closest to my brain. You seem very mission driven in your life in general, I assume, not just with work. What keeps you grounded? What keeps you like, do you have any sort of practice routine that keeps you, it's like I've said in other podcasts, it's easy to want to be mission. There's plenty of people that want to be mission driven, but then they get distracted by things. So yeah, I'd love to hear what keeps you grounded.
mindfulness. Guided meditation. Speaking of Apple Music, there's a dream sleep sequence with water just running. Sometimes just getting to a peaceful state is something that helps me reset and then keep moving. I'm in a room here, the lights just went off, but guess I need to
Yeah, I
move.
like that. I think that's God talking to you. He's like,
I guess so.
Or the electric company, one or the other.
or the electric
One or the
company.
other, right?
They all work for him. Everyone works for him. Uh, yeah, yeah, you're talking my language. I'm a big fan of that. It seems to work.
Definitely. It really does. It changed my life about 3 or 4 years ago. And so I go back to it regularly. It's a part of my daily routine.
Love that.
What in particular do you do? Like, what's the routine? What do you have? I always feel like it's interesting to hear how people some people wake up and journal, some people meditate, which I think is amazing. Is there anything specific that you
Yeah.
find valuable?
Yeah, I do. And so for me, it's the early morning. And so, usually I will get up out of bed and I've got my favorite chair in my den. I'll fix me a cup of coffee, and I may put my earphones in and or AirPods in and go through a guided meditation sitting there before the coffee or after, and then kind of start my day. I kind of like to visualize what I need to accomplish, during the day, and so there are probably 50 things that you need to do, but of those 50, what one or two do I really need to do today to feel a sense of accomplishment? And so if I can start my day there, I'm good.
Have you ever been a guru? I think Lisa wants you to be your guru.
I know, seriously.
Well, I don't mind sharing stories. I just believe that we have experiences and people, we can benefit from one another's stories. And so the good, the bad, and otherwise, it needs to be told
I agree.
Yeah.
or shared. I'll put it that way. I'll say shared.
So I may have taken my turn asking a question, but I'm going to ask you one more question, which is, if you think back throughout your career, is there any one defining deal or moment that you would think like, you know, wow, that was a really special moment in time or deal that I achieved or defining moment of any sort?
Well, that is an interesting question, and I hadn't really thought about that. But one thing that comes back to me as a precious moment over and over again was in 2013. I was heading to Connecticut. I was working on a software development project, and I got on that plane. And as it took off, I looked out of the window. There was a rainbow off in the distance, and I said to myself, you know, somebody's actually about to pay me to fly to Connecticut. you know, it was then that I said, hey, this thing's really coming together.
Right. What mentors have had the most impact upon you?
Yeah,
Because
so
we met when you were at we did an event at Morehouse College. You volunteered your time, so it seems like you enjoy helping the younger generation. Now, who has kind of, I assume people helped you throughout your career too, and your
yeah,
life.
yeah, and the list is really, really long. But if I had to boil it down to just a few, I would say two. Because of the work that I do and the connection to service, I would say Renee Glover, from the standpoint of giving me an opportunity to learn the technical side of
Hmm.
what we do. And so she created so many opportunities for me, both to learn the business outside of the organization and also inside of the organization. And then second to that would be Joy Fitzgerald, who also worked with me at the Atlanta Housing Authority. I worked under her in a development capacity. What she taught me was the people investment piece. And so for a while I was really just about execution and outcomes.
Hmm.
And she taught me how to slow it down, right? And make those connections, invest in people. And that's been very rewarding after having done that. So as you go through your career, to see other people thrive and know that you've invested in them and they come back and thank you, not that you're looking for that, but to hear someone speak to, how you made a difference, in their lives, in their careers, it's just really, really special. So again, my life is about service. I'm really blessed to be doing what I'm doing and to have known the people that I've known, and those two made a big impact on my life.
Well, Ken, you're a great man. It was wonderful to meet you in person. It's even better now to get to know you better. Thanks for sharing your story and for all the help that you do.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
hope we
thank you
keep in
all for
touch.
having me. Yeah,
I hope we
absolutely. Look
keep in
forward to
touch.
it. So I believe in lifelong relationships. So look forward to staying connected with you guys.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Resume, a Jackson Lucas podcast where we take a deep dive into the career journeys of some of the top minds in real estate and equip you with the knowledge to move forward in your path towards the success you've envisioned. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Beyond the Resume. We're grateful for your support. All episodes of Beyond the Resume are brought to you by Jackson Lucas, building inclusive and diverse businesses through talent acquisition. Visit us at jacksonlucas.com